Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Found Most Amazing and Unique Bloodline Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. I do not own Naruto or any of its characters. Alright, does everyone have a slip now? Asked Sarutobi in front of the crowd of tired and rather worse off genin. Then starting at the left, each of you read the number written on your slip out loud. I have 8, said Dosu. I have 1. What does that mean? Asked Naruto. A few people chuckled. 7, sighed Tamari. 5, said Kankuro in the same fashion as his sister. 3, said Gaara, expressionless as always. I have 9, mumbled Shikamaru. 2, said Neji, acting so cool. 6, said Shino, also expressionless. So Uchiha will be the 4th, Ibiki said, writing on his clipboard. Good, and now I will reveal the match order for the finals. What? Exclaimed many people, including loudmouth Naruto. So that's what the drawing was for. Shikamaru sighed, wondering who he'd be up against. Well, Ibiki, show them the pairings, said Sarutobi. Ibiki slowly turned his clipboard toward the ninjas. There you could see 9 names paired in grouped in twos, except for Shikamaru. Naruto U versus Neji H. Neji right off the bat, thought Naruto in a sense of inner joy, perfect. I'll beat him for you Hinata, and make him pay for what he did. Gaara versus Sasuke's U. Many people gasped, already anticipating the match, visualizing a dead Sasuke. Kankuro versus Shino A. Kankuro smirked. This would be too easy. Shikamaru N versus Dosu. Great. Sound boy, Shikamaru thought. Shikamaru N versus Tamari. What a drag. I have to do 2 matches, mumbled Shikamaru, disappointed, already finding it too much work to do 1 match. Now then, it's time for you to go plan for your battle, come up with new moves, rest up or do whatever you please. We're all finished here, see you in a month, get out. With that, Sarutobi and all the genin and jonin left the arena filled with craters, not to meet again for another month. I need to ask Master Kakashi for some more training, thought Naruto after the group of Chunin hopefuls left in a scramble. Hey Sakura, where's Master Kakashi? Screamed Naruto. He's probably with Sasuke at the hospital, Sakura responded. Naruto took off toward the Konoha hospital, determined to beat Sasuke to Kakashi for training. Hey, where's Sasuke's room? Asked Naruto, standing on top of the counter. Visiting hours are over, the secretary said calmly, despite the boy standing on the counter in front of her. But why, Naruto? You're in a hospital, said Kakashi. Shut up. Oh, Master Kakashi, I need a favor. Naruto was cut off mid-sentence by Kakashi. Stop right there. I already know what you're about to ask, so I've found someone to oversee your training. Kakashi said in a cheerful tone. Huh, I wanted you to train me, Kakashi-sensei, sighed Naruto, sounding disappointed. Kakashi shifted where he stood. Quote. I've got other things going on. I wouldn't be able to give you my full attention, Kakashi said, feeling bad for the blonde. Let me guess, you're too busy training Sasuke, right? Mumbled Naruto. Now, don't be jealous, I found you an even better teacher than me, Kakashi said. Anyway, Sasuke has a certain set of skills that makes him a perfect student for me. He sounded exited, hoping to cheer up the boy, unsuccessfully. Who is it? Naruto grunted, upset by the turnout of this. It worked better in his head beforehand. At precisely at right moment, a thin man dressed in black emerged from around the corner. It is I, said Ebisu. Hey, you're that closet perv, Naruto said, jokingly, pointing him finger at Ebisu. Master Ebisu, a closet perv, said Kakashi, confused by Naruto's reaction. Why would you choose such a loser to be my trainer? I mean, he's even weaker than me. Come on. One time he even fell for my ninja harem jutsu technique, and he Naruto was cut off by Ebisu putting him in a headlock. Hey, don't say it, said Ebisu, who was blushing. I'll treat you to whatever you want later, so don't say anything more about it, okay? Ebisu whispered into Naruto's ear. Quote. Wow, I didn't know you two already knew each other, said Kakashi, still confused by the scene unfolding in front of him. He shifted and leaned against the wall, eager to get back to his star pupil. Well, we best be off then, Ebisu said nervously. Where are we going? Asked Naruto. You'll see, Ebisu responded, eager to leave before Naruto said anything more incriminating. Before they could leave, Kakashi gave Naruto a small pep talk. Now Naruto, Master Ebisu is an exclusive private tutor who teaches the elite. He's a special Jonin. He's a better teacher than me, I promise. Yeah, I won't believe till I see it, and besides, doesn't saying that he's a special Jonin mean he wasn't good enough to be a real one? Said Naruto. Now, lighten up and have fun. Kakashi finished off with his weird eye smile thing. Ebisu took Naruto on a walk to the local hot springs, attempting to explain the point of chakra control on the way. As Naruto walked in, he got a peek in at the woman's bath. By the time Ebisu noticed, Naruto all slack jaw. Wah! Hey Naruto, that's the woman's bath. Ebisu exclaimed. I will not permit any disreputable behavior. He proceeded to hit Naruto in the head. Why does everyone hit me on the head? Naruto thought. Sakura, now Ebisu. You're the one who's the closet perv, Naruto said under his breath. What? Do we have to take a bath before we can start training? No, this is where we're going to train. Ebisu ushered Naruto into the men's side of the hot springs. Wah! What do you mean we're gonna train here? Asked Naruto. Think what you can do in a hot spring in terms of training. Asked Ebisu. I don't know. Learn how to control water, I guess, responded Naruto, still drawing a blank. We're going, Ebisu said, to walk on water. Rather than explaining it, Ebisu continued, I'll just show you. Ebisu started walking toward the water, and when he reached it, instead of walking into it, he stepped on it as if it was a solid surface. When he had reached the middle of the hot spring, he turned and looked at Naruto with a smug expression. Now I want to see you do this. If a closet perv can do it, so that means the next Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki, can do it as well, thought Naruto. So cool. Let me try. Naruto begged. Just don't expect to get it the first time. And he didn't. As Naruto would build up his chakra, he would either have too much or too little, so he would fly 100 feet away or fall into the boiling water below. But after many tries he started to get the hang of it, and he was doing like a half in, half out thing. But just as Ebisu was just about to comment on Naruto's progress, he heard a man giggling like a schoolgirl. Whipping his head around, he saw the source of the laughter, a man with white hair peeking in on the women's bath. Outraged, Ebisu took off toward the uber perv shouting, I will not stand disreputable behavior. Faster than most people could see, the man turned around and a frog came out of nowhere, smacking into Ebisu, and knocked him out all in the blink of an eye. All Ebisu could say was, then he was unconscious. Naruto could only stare. Well, great, I have to train for the Chunin exams, and you super perv knocked out my closet perv sensei. Now who's gonna train me? Naruto pouted, thinking about how his situation was worsening by the second. I don't know and I don't care, said the super perv, turning his back to Naruto and started walking toward the exit. Well, great, he's a stubborn super perv, thought Naruto before starting laughing, on the inside at least. You're the one who knocked him out, so it's your job to train me. Naruto exclaimed. The super perv stopped mid-step and thought a second. You sure do talk a lot, the super perv responded. How about I say, no? His tone was firm. Now let me finish my research, if there are any girls left, he said under his breath. Now Naruto was getting annoyed. What? Looking at girls in the bath is research? Naruto made quite a scene, causing himself to lose concentration in the process and falling into the scalding water below. Quiet, quiet, I don't want them to hear you, the super perv whispered, and anyway, what's in it for me? You're just another snot-nosed brat wanting training. What makes you so different? Well, Naruto thought, seeing as how he's such a huge perv, this should work. Sexy jutsu. Naruto preformed his jutsu that he made up to be an ultimate attack to knock out most men with its vulgarness, except it doesn't work on pervs like him, it does quite the opposite. Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke. When the smoke cleared, he had turned to a too familiar girl that Naruto had copied from a magazine. The old perv's face went from a confused expression to a look of complete joy and lunged forward at Naruto, surprised when he hit a real body instead of an illusion, and instead of a bloody nose like normal he started drooling. That's not a normal reaction, thought Naruto. Now will you train me? Asked Naruto in a sexy, cunning voice. Yes, yes, but on one condition. The old perv's face was now in an evil happy expression. Okay, what is it? Naruto asked, not expecting anything good. Quote. You have to stay like that the whole time. Naruto reappeared with his arms crossed, frowning. What more could I expect from a old perv? Thought Naruto. Okay, here's the deal. I'll do it once in a while. Fine, but even I can tell that was more than a simple illusion. It was a true physical transfer that's like a cage-level transformation jutsu. I can't even do that. I'm impressed. I'd like to see what other tricks you have up your sleeve. The perv smiled. So, what's your name, kid? Uzumaki. Naruto, said Naruto, giving him a thumbs up. Surprised about what had said. Cage level. I just thought that's what everyone did. I just looked at what everyone did and copied it since nobody would show me how it was really done. No, it couldn't be, could it? The old perv asked himself. Meet me at the falls tomorrow morning at 8, okay kid? Okay, but I never got your name, asked Naruto, trying to get a little info about this old perv, so a first name basis seemed like a good place to start. I am the Toad Sage. Jiraiya. And with that, the old perv got into his battle stance similar to the Hyuga style and did a toothy smile, then went back to casual stance and walked out of the springs looking like he'd found his long-lost twin, and with a wave he was gone, but Naruto was getting hungry, so he started the short walk from the hot springs to the Ichiraku ramen shop. Can I have one bowl of ramen please? Naruto asked the man behind the counter at the ramen shop. I'll have the same, said a mysterious, yet familiar voice. Iruka-sensei. Naruto yelled in a tone of delight, happy to see his old sensei. I heard you got trough to the third part of the Chunin exams, said Iruka between bites. I'm proud of you, have another bowl on me. Thanks, Iruka-sensei. The next morning Naruto got up and decided to go check up on Hinata, who was in the hospital. When he got permission to go see Hinata from the secretary, who reminded him to be quiet, he headed toward her room. On his way in he passed a very cold-looking Hiyashi. Naruto hadn't expected Hinata to be awake after yesterday, but to his surprise she was. As Naruto walked in, Hinata turned to a bright red, which was not unusual for when Naruto was near her. Hey Hinata, glad to see you're awake, Naruto said, putting his hands behind his head and giving her a toothy grin. Naruto, what are you doing here? Hinata muttered. She squirmed under Naruto's stare. I just wanted to see how you're doing and all, Naruto replied. Glad to see you're awake. Naruto moved to sit at the foot of her hospital bed. Really? Hinata was suddenly ecstatic. Her most precious person came to visit her and she was brimming on fainting just from that comment. So how you feeling? Naruto was kind of taken aback by the mood suddenly changing. Gee, good, I guess, considering how I was beforehand. Glad I woke you up when you came, Hinata mumbled, then shot Naruto a weak smile. Yeah, I'll say, I like you more awake opposed to when you're passed out anyways, said Naruto, not realizing what he'd said before. Ironically, Hinata passed out. Seeing that as a sign to leave, he started his journey toward the falls to meet Jiraiya, who was early, the opposite to Kakashi. But as he got closer, he noticed that he was early so he could get some peeping in before he started training. Naruto took the chance to embarrass him by screaming, "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" It worked even better than he thought. Jiraiya just about jumped out of his skin, turning around with his eyebrow twitching and his finger up to his mouth, the rightfully named pervy sage. "Shish, you'll scare away the view." Wise words from a pervert, Naruto thought to himself, trying to contain his laughter. "Come on, let's start training already," Naruto demanded, stomping his foot on the ground. "Look, now they're leaving." Jiraiya pouted. "Okay, what I'm about to show you is so unbelievably awesome, so cool, it practically is what gives me the name Toad Sage." The old perv loves to get the blonde all excited, it's just hilarious to see his reaction. "Show me, show me, show me." Naruto squealed, so excited that he would be able to show off his new move to Sasuke. Naruto was practically bursting at the seams with excitement. "Not so fast, squirt. You have to get that walking on water thing down first, it's essential to this new move I will show you." Naruto sighed and dropped his head in disappointment. "Well, might as well get dressed for the part, seeing as I'm gonna get wet. I brought my bathing suit 'cause I thought you were gonna teach me the same old crap that the closet perv could do." Naruto started taking his clothes off and the old perv's face skewed up. "What a petite little body you have." Then he burst out laughing. Naruto was not equally pleased and said disapprovingly, "Shut up you old perv." And hit him on the head. "I'm just playin' with ya, now give it a try," Jiraiya said, still wiping tears from his eyes. Naruto did as he was told, building up his chakra and walking toward the water. But he ended up in a half situation again, so when he fell in a few seconds later he was noticeably frustrated at still not being able to do it. "Hey, Squirt, I think I know what's wrong, come here." Jiraiya asked Naruto to build up his chakra facing him this time, and his suspicions were confirmed. When the Kyuubi's seal appeared, there was Orochimaru's five-prong seal, disturbing Naruto's chakra flow, something Jiraiya could rectify. Naruto had his eyes closed concentrating, so Jiraiya took this as a chance to reverse the seal. Each one of Jiraiya's fingers on his right hand lit up, and he smashed his hand into Naruto's stomach, sending him flying backwards. "What the hell did you do that for?" Naruto asked, fuming. "Never mind that now, try it again," Jiraiya said, chuckling again. Naruto snorted, but did as he was told, but to his surprise, instead of falling in again, he walked on top just as Ebisu had done the previous day. Shocked, he started jumping up and down, giving Jiraiya a toothy grin, so happy to finally be able to walk on water. "What did you do?" Naruto asked, bringing his jumping to a halt. "It's a secret," Jiraiya said, smiling with the blonde, figuring it wouldn't make a difference to explain to him. Usually Naruto would have pressed for details but just gave him a shrug and lost his concentration and fell in. Naruto emerged from the water smiling. Jiraiya, chuckling on the shore, got up, and helped Naruto out of the water. He handed him a towel and asked if he wanted to go for ramen for lunch to celebrate. Naruto's smile slipped as he dried himself off. He thought if this what having a dad was like, having fun and working together. Naruto felt all that emotion swelling up, threatening to come out as he started to realize what having a family was like. Not having it his whole life, he didn't know what it was like to have someone to look up to, someone to hold precious to him. "Sure, pervy sage," Naruto said while putting his clothes back on. After Jiraiya tricked Naruto into buying both his and Naruto's ramen, and after saying his goodbyes to Jiraiya, and both agreeing to meet late in the day, he went home thinking how he'd go see Hinata in the morning and see how she's feeling. Naruto walked into Hinata's hospital room. He saw that she was asleep, her face blank, expressionless. Naruto stood there watching her sleep. "You changed her, Naruto," said a voice from behind Naruto. "Hi, Kurenai-sensei," Naruto said, lost in his thoughts. What do you mean? She's always been watching you, Naruto, she always respected you. Just you cheering for her gave her confidence that to fight, Kurenai explained. You've inspired her to be a better person. She walked up behind him and put her hand on his shoulder, both of them smiling as they watched Hinata. Naruto didn't respond. He just stood there, watching, wishing she would wake up so he could tell her how he felt. Hinata really cared about me, Naruto thought to himself. I wish I would have realized sooner before all this, before she got hurt. Not being able to stand there anymore, he left to go meet Jiraiya, hoping training would bring up the spirit of the day. And maybe he could get this killer move down. Hey, why you hiding behind that bush, you old perv? What you doing, peeping? Naruto screamed to a man hiding behind a bush, looking at a few girls playing in the river a few meters away, and with a few muffled screams and a couple splashes they were gone, followed by a glare from the old man. Why must you always interrupt my research? Jiraiya pouted, dragging his feet on his way out of his hiding spot. You promised you'd show me that killer move, remember? Naruto asked, tapping his foot in a disapproving fashion. Okay, if I show you, you have to leave me alone to do my research. Jiraiya said, still disappointed about how Naruto seems to ruin his every moment today. Okay, now show me. Naruto said. Without further explanation, Jiraiya bit his thumb and pressed his palm on the ground where a pattern formed around his hand, and then poof, Jiraiya was sitting on a giant toad with a scroll in its mouth. You're gonna show me how to do that? Cool. Naruto screamed. He looked like someone who had won the lottery. Yes, but before I do that you have to sign this scroll, in your blood. Jiraiya explained, amused by Naruto's reaction. Okay, but why in my blood? Naruto asked, squeamish. Because, the summoning jutsu is more or less a teleportation jutsu, and it uses your blood as a conductor, Jiraiya explained enthusiastically, so you have to sign your name in blood on the scroll and press an imprint of each of your fingers on the very bottom, so they can recognize that it's you who summoned them, got it? I think so. With that, the giant frog uncurled his tongue and the scroll hit the ground in front of Naruto and unrolled itself. Naruto did as he was told. He bit his thumb and wrote his name beside the last, touched each of his fingers onto his bloody thumb and pressed his hand on the bottom of the scroll like Jiraiya said. After Jiraiya showed Naruto the proper hand signs and minor details, he sent him to practice. I'd be shocked if he got anything more than a tadpole the first time, Jiraiya thought, anticipating what he will summon. So Naruto did exactly what Jiraiya told him to and bit his thumb, pressed his palm into the earth, and the same pattern showed up around his hand as Jiraiya's had a few minutes ago. But instead of a giant frog he got a tadpole. Why would I expect anything else? Thought Jiraiya. Arg, why isn't it working? Naruto asked, himself frustrated. Poof. Another tadpole. Naruto wailed. Wait, look. Pervy sage. Jiraiya looked up from the book he was reading. What? It looks the same as all the others. Jiraiya sighed. No, this one has legs. Naruto exclaimed, being a little overexcited about it. Oh, what an improvement, Jiraiya responded sarcastically. Setting his book down, he looked more intently at Naruto. Hey kid, come over here, Jiraiya asked, putting his hand up and motioned for Naruto to come over. What do you want? Naruto said, still upset from his numerous failures. He went and sat down beside Jiraiya. Have you ever felt two kinds of chakras inside of you? Jiraiya asked out of the blue. Well, if you're talking colors then I guess. Naruto explained. My normal chakra would be blue and the other would be red, but sometimes I feel this other stuff, I have no idea what it is though. Just as I thought, about the first two. Now, could you try to get that red chakra flowing? Jiraiya asked. I could try. Naruto responded uncertainly. He started focusing, but to no avail. Nothing. The only time I have ever gotten it is when I was in danger, or something like I was really emotional. Naruto was hoping Jiraiya wasn't going to try to kill him. Danger. Huh, I know just the spot. Hey, Naruto, let's go for a walk. Jiraiya said solemnly. Okay. As Naruto and Jiraiya walk silently, a few thoughts crossed Naruto's mind. Where are we going? Was a given. I hope Hinata's alright. And, I wish I could go get some ramen, I missed lunch. Suddenly, Jiraiya stopped. Your training ends here. If you can't even produce more than a tadpole, you're not even worth training. Before Naruto could complain, Jiraiya lifted his hand and flicked Naruto in the forehead with surprising force, sending him flying backwards off a cliff which seemed to have no bottom. Naruto could see. All he could hear was wind whistling in his ears as he fell, his mind flickering back to this morning with Hinata. I'm sorry, Hinata. I'm sorry I couldn't beat Neji for you. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you how much I care for you. I'm sorry. Okay, let's get to saving my life. Summoning was his only option, but as he was building up his chakra, he sensed the red chakra taking over. Ah, Naruto wailed, as he felt like he was being squeezed through a hole too small for his body. Then he was on solid ground again. Wait, Naruto thought, where am I? What just happened? And why am I here? What the? Where am I? Naruto jumped up. Am I dead? He asked himself, touching all over his body to make sure he was alive, and trying to get his head around the situation. Wow, what happened? First I was falling, now I'm in the hospital lobby, that doesn't add up. Wait, so. A silver-haired Jonin walked toward a ruckus coming from the hospital lobby, figuring that it was Naruto coming to ask for training. Already having planned a speech, he was prepared to disappoint the blonde. But while he was on his way there, the noise suddenly stopped. He decided that either Naruto was unconscious or dead, but both were improbable, since there was only a secretary there. But as he came around the corner, he saw a very confused Naruto. He looked like someone asked him to solve a math question. As Kakashi walked up to the dumb blonde, Naruto suddenly noticed the silver hair ninja and suddenly was relieved that he could ask him what had happened. Why am here? Naruto wailed to Kakashi. How the hell should I know? Kakashi said flatly, slowing his pace the closer he got to Naruto. Wait, what day is it, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked sheepishly, not wanting to know the answer. Wednesday. Not understanding why he would ask such questions, Kakashi was starting to question Naruto's sanity. No, it's Saturday, Naruto wailed, so confused. Okay, maybe Naruto's mind snapped after winning the 2 round of the Chunin exams, having been so happy it'd expect him to be asking for training, not to know what day it was, Kakashi thought to himself playfully, but concerned for the blonde's well-being. Okay, let's go over this again. I built up my chakra for a summoning and I ended up here. Naruto receded into his thoughts again and left the world of the living, leaving Kakashi very confused. So did I accidentally do a really powerful body flicker or some powerful teleportation? But still, I was falling then. From what I know, body flicker doesn't cause pain. Maybe the old perv would know, Naruto thought, distressed, and I need to ask him why he pushed me off a cliff. Hey, have you seen an old guy with long white hair? And what day is it? Naruto asked a random person on the street. About the first part, I think I saw a guy like him heading toward the hot springs, and the second part, it's Wednesday. The person said to Naruto. Then Naruto said a quick thanks, then growled, and he marched toward the hot springs. Weird kid, he thought. Naruto asked a series of people the same questions and got the same answer. Well, not always where to find Jiraiya, but everyone agreed that it was Wednesday. So he decided the hot springs was a good place to start, so onward to the hot springs. Naruto walked into the hot springs, staying amazingly calm despite his confusing situation. He saw Jiraiya giggling, squatted looking through the cracks in the flimsy wall between the men's and women's bath. He's in the same position as he was when I was here on Wednesday. Hoping it was just a coincidence, he decided to ask Jiraiya the same question he's asked everyone. Hey pervy sage, what day is it? Naruto asked, expecting him to say the same as all the others. Jiraiya's giggle fits came to an end for a second as he thought, Wednesday, who are you? Do you want my autograph or something? He asked flatly, a second before going back to his research. You're lying. It's Saturday and you know who I am, you idiot. Remember, my name's Naruto. Naruto said, getting edgy. Why was everyone acting like he was a moron? Come on, it's time to train, let's go, and don't push me off a cliff this time, okay? Naruto said, trying to catch the perv off guard, but nothing ever goes his way, does it? Whoa, you have the wrong guy. I have no apprentice at the moment, and you don't look like someone who had just crawled out of a hole in the ground. Now get lost. Jiraiya said, waving his hand dismissively. What, you don't remember? I got you to be my sensei by doing this, Naruto said, followed by a few hand signs, and a excited and drooling Jiraiya. Then Naruto got his sensei back, even if it was the same way as before. So what's your name, kid? Jiraiya asked, still a little lightheaded from that kid's awesome juts. Naruto, remember I told you a while ago, I think showing you that jutsu kills a few brain cells at the same time. Naruto said, still not understanding why Jiraiya didn't remember him. Was those past days just an illusion? Was this really Wednesday? Ha! Meet me at the falls tomorrow, kid, at let's say 8 o'clock. Jiraiya asked, enjoying the kid's company. Sure, why not? So is it really Wednesday? Naruto asked, still wondering. Yes, and tomorrow will be Thursday like every week, Friday before Saturday, common sense. Jiraiya said sarcastically, and with a wave he was gone. He had to go research somewhere else. Naruto had attracted to many people when he was talking with him. Yeah, see you tomorrow, bye. Naruto said, usually I'd be hungry for some ramen by now, but I'm too confused to be hungry. Naruto thought to himself and decided head back to his apartment so he could go over the events of today. This was going to be a long night. XD. Okay, let's go over this yet again. I built up my chakra for a summoning and I ended up here, but how? Naruto thought, lying in his bed looking at his ceiling. He went over what had happened over and over again, not getting anywhere before he dozed off for the night. Naruto got up the next morning with a new angle to come at Jiraiya with a new set of questions and hoping he could answer them. So he got dressed and put on his headband and ate a bowl of instant ramen just before taking off toward the falls. Today's a new day, Naruto thought, rushing off the street toward the forest, totally forgetting that it was today that had gotten to know Hinata the day Head went to visit her. Hey pervy sage, why you here so early? Naruto asked, walking up to Jiraiya, who was hiding behind a bush. Shish, they'll hear you. Jiraiya whispered loudly, holding his finger up to his mouth and giving Naruto a glare. He mouthed, shut up. Come on, let's get to summoning already. Naruto said, still trying to jog Jiraiya's memory. Forgetting about the girls, Naruto instantly held his attention. What, you already know summoning? Have you signed a scroll of summoning already? Jiraiya asked, taken aback by the boy's statement. Well, I think so. I signed with the frogs. Naruto said flatly, giving Jiraiya a deadpan look. Really now? I don't believe you. I signed with the frogs. I'm the keeper of the scroll. Jiraiya said, even taken more aback. Had he really signed it? No, that's impossible, Jiraiya thought. Then he bit his thumb and summoned the frog with the scroll. Had it uncurl its tongue in the scroll. When it was on the ground, Jiraiya unwrapped it. Jiraiya couldn't believe his eyes. Wah! Naruto said, my name is still there. Signed in blood. My blood, how could it be? Ha, see, I'm there. It's signed in my blood. Naruto said smugly, but was just as surprised himself. Naruto was surprised by this. How could my blood still be there? This is getting weirder by the minute. Okay, Naruto said, still freaked out by his name. How the hell does he have his name there? I never released the scroll to him. Could it be? Could he have his mother's abilities? I'll find out soon enough. Jiraiya was deep in thought, but he figured he would just continue as usual and figure it out later. Okay, let's get started. Jiraiya said enthusiastically. Let's try it out. Naruto bit his thumb and pressed his hand into the soil. Puff, tadpole. Arg! Naruto exclaimed after yet another failure. It was the first in Jiraiya's mind but the millionth in Naruto's. That's pretty much how their days went. Poof tadpole arg. That following week Jiraiya took Naruto for ramen or the other way around, and they got talking. Figuring that him and Jiraiya had gotten closer over the past week, he decided he would ask for the 7th time, "Hey pervy sage." Naruto said between slurps of ramen. "Yeah." Jiraiya responded back, busy eating his own bowl as well. "I don't know what happened, but while I was falling off a cliff a week ago, I've talked about it." Naruto brought up the subject again. "Yeah, what about it?" Jiraiya said between slurps also. "I'm between that I body flickered or that I time traveled somehow. Have you ever heard of that before?" Naruto asked after long coming to this conclusion, after a painfully long pause, well long enough for Naruto to eat 2 more bowls of ramen. Jiraiya responded, "Actually, I have heard of a special bloodline where it is possible to control time. It's so rare that most of people think it's a myth. There was a rumor though, one person was said to have ever had that ability. She was from Suna, I think, but it's been so long I can't remember her name." The late afternoon sun frayed trough the rooftops of the numerous apartments and shops of all kind. It was just another day in Konoha, blue sky and mildly warm, children running by, laughing and playing. The smell of beef broth swirled through the air, making people stop and smell. The source of the great smell came from a small stand. A white-haired old man in a red coat with traditional sandals, sitting in front of a second bowl of ramen. It was nothing compared to the child who sat beside him, with an ever-increasing number of empty bowls which had started to make a semicircle around him like his own defensive bowls. Naruto slurped down his 15th bowl of ramen while Jiraiya at his side finished his second. The 2 men sat and talked casually, as if talking about the weather. Suddenly Naruto went deep in thought as he was carefully selecting his words. After Naruto's realization about this rare bloodline, he decided he was going to explore further. It might just help him understand his little situation. "So do you know anything else about this rare bloodline?" Naruto asked casually, trying to get anything out of him. "No, I told you it's been so long. It's an, I know a guy, who knows a guy, who knows a guy, situation, but it's a myth. You know how kids say, wouldn't it be awesome if I could control time? It was just a rumor, for all I know it could be a joke." Jiraiya said, hoping to end this, mentally kicking himself and asking why he even said anything. Now Naruto was going to be at him 25/8 days a week, inside joke of mine. "Okay, but tell me if you remember anything," Naruto said, obviously not going to let this drop. He rose from his seat quickly before Jiraiya could ditch him and make him pay for the 15 or so bowls of miso ramen, and walked away thanking Jiraiya for a good meal. Naruto was lost in his thoughts as he walked home. Who could I ask? The perv doesn't know. I could ask the 3rd, since he's the Hokage, he should know. This has to be it. But, Naruto thought to himself on his walk back, I'll go see the 3rd in the morning. Now I have to get a good night's sleep. I have to clear my mind. I'll think about Hinata. Yeah, that'll calm me. As he thought back to that day when they talked, it struck him. I forgot to see her. I've been so focused on my business I forgot about her. I'll make it up to her. I'll go see her before I go see the 3rd in the morning. Naruto stood in a quiet room, where he looked over an unconscious Hinata. She was so beautiful, so perfect. Looking at her face, he felt the anger at Neji, for what he had done to his own family. The red chakra to start to circulate his feet, his canines starting to grow. He took it as a sign that he should leave soon before he killed Neji before the match. On the other hand, she looked as if she were in eternal peace, almost happy to be there, happy to be away from her family. I'm sorry, Hinata, Naruto whispered into her ear before he quietly kissed her on the cheek, and when she didn't flare up red like a rose he knew she was out of it. With that he left without making a noise. He slipped out the door without making so much as a pat of his foot on the floor. Naruto walked solemnly down the dirt road that lead to the Hokage Tower, happy he could see Hinata this morning, running over what he'd asked the third, how he'd approached him without looking like an idiot. As he walked, he got numerous dirty looks, not that it was different from any other day, and just ignored them like any other day. "Hey Gramps," Naruto said to the third Hokage, standing in the doorway of his huge office, peeking through the two huge wooden doors waving. "Hello Naruto, what brings you here?" The Hokage asked. Happy Naruto had come. He always seems to make the mountains of paperwork not seem so bad. "I had a question," Naruto said, trying to pick his words carefully, thinking about every word that left his lips, acting as if they were fragile glass that would break at any moment. "Yes, what is it?" Sarutobi said, thinking how it wasn't like him to think before he spoke. "This must be something of great importance," Sarutobi thought. Have you ever heard of particular bloodline?" Naruto said slowly, "that could control time." He finally spat out, wishing he could have pulled them back as soon as they left his lips. There was a long pause as the Hokage took a puff from his pipe as he thought and questioned why Naruto would ask this. "Is this some prank he's trying to play on me?" All Naruto could hear was the faint chatter of children in the academy running around in the schoolyard. "Well, at least he didn't laugh at me to start out with. I think he's at least considering the question," Naruto thought, thinking he could grow a beard before he would answer. "Yes, I have heard of a few select cases where there was a certain bloodline that allows you to control time, but no one, not even me, has seen it in action. It has a certain failsafe that keeps it a secret because, if they go back in time, everybody forgets. For all I know, there could be dozens of people in this village with that bloodline." The Hokage carefully selected his words, trying not to give too much away. Truth was, he knew much more about this bloodline, but it was a secret that's to be kept among the 5 cages. What with it being a bloodline here, any ninja village leader would love to have someone with that ability. They could literally mean the difference between a loss and a win in a war. They could take out any of the cages with ease. Naruto considered his words carefully, taking each to heart, trying to piece words together for a response. "Thank you. Tell me if you can remember any specific aspects to it, or really anything at all." As Naruto turned to leave the Hokage's office, the Hokage started chuckling. "I don't ever recall you to ever think before you speak, or consider anything I've ever said. Why the sudden interest in this bloodline?" The Hokage chuckled as he spoke. "No reason," Naruto said. "Anyways, thanks for the info, just give me an update if you remember. After I learn more I'll tell you my reason, 'cause if I told you now you wouldn't believe me." With a wave, Naruto slipped out the 2 large doors and was gone. Well, there's no dull moment with Naruto, that's for sure, the Hokage thought as he took another puff from his pipe. The wind blew, ruffling Naruto's black and orange jacket as it flapped in the breeze. The late afternoon sun gleamed on his tan skin, the light reflecting off his pure blue eyes. His spikes of blonde hair shifted on top of his head, and he listened to the leaves ruffling in the calm wind as if they were talking in a low whisper. He stood with his arms apart over a seemingly bottomless cliff. "I am so screwed if this goes wrong," the blonde thought as he looked off the side of the cliff, questioning his sanity. Not being able to see the bottom was a little disconcerting. "Okay, if I'm right about this, I'll go back in time like before. I have to try and use as much chakra as possible. I haven't figured it out yet, but I think it has something to do with me thinking of where I want to be." He took another look down the bottomless pit, his nerves screaming for him not to jump. Naruto swayed, knowing he had to do this, to know more. He'd done this once before. He could do it again, even if he had been pushed the first time. He decided he would think of this moment, him standing over the cliff, and he hoped he would live to see it again. An onlooking Jiraiya watched Naruto preparing mentally to jump off a cliff. He had asked Naruto to go train with him this morning, but he had not shown up. His plan was to take Naruto here today and fling him off to get his red chakra going so he could summon something bigger than a small frog, but Naruto seems to have beaten him to it. It was no use stopping him. All Naruto could hear was the wind whistling in his ears, almost deafening him as he fell at ever-increasing speeds, when he suddenly felt a painful surge of chakra swell up in his chest. He could feel his fingernails growing and his eyes became red with slits. His vision became sharper. Noticing more detail about this pit, he could see water dripping off the cone-shaped walls like blood as the identical cones flashed by almost too quick for his eyes to follow, and despite his improved vision he still couldn't see the bottom. Good. This means I won't become a pancake on the ground before I can test my ability. He felt the energy crackle trough his bones. He looked at his hand in front of him as it lit up red, and he knew it was time. Naruto flashed trough the hand seals, trying not to waste time checking each one as he had them memorized. While he approached the last sign, he felt the chakra swell up in his hand as he yelled, summoning Jut. He almost threw up when the unbearable pain he remembered from last time shot him in the gut and spread outward mercilessly, but he took it as a sign it had worked, well, at least until he blacked out. Jiraiya was watching Naruto's body fall with a pair of binoculars, seeing it light up red with all the physical changes noted. When Naruto started to flash through hand signs, he started wishing he had a bag of popcorn. He would feel bad for the boy if he summoned a tadpole again, because that would definitively not break his fall, but the boy started to flicker as if he was disappearing. What the hell? Jiraiya said out loud just as Naruto disappeared. What twisted jutsu is this? As all Jiraiya could say as the world became nothing. Naruto was standing in a sewer with a few inches of water on the ground, with a torch providing the only light in the dark passageway. Naruto looked around wondering if he was dead. He examined the walls further. He saw they were bloodstained, but not with fresh blood, but with old blood that looked like it had been there ages. There was for too much of it to have been from one person. It must have been from dozens of people. There were deep gashes on the walls that looked at least 6 inches deep, like whatever was drugged this way sure didn't make it easy. Naruto followed the blood trail out of curiosity. He turned numerous times, but with every step he could feel the killer intent getting stronger and the smell of burnt skin also growing as he took another step. When he turned the last corner, he saw 2 unbelievably huge golden gates, but instead of a giant dead bolt holding them together as one would expect, it had a small seal on it that, funny enough, said, "Seal." Before Naruto, 2 large eyes appeared before him, blood red with one slit in each, both focused on Naruto. "So, calling on my chakra a lot, aren't we?" The demon said in a booming voice, each word cutting down Naruto's bravery bit by bit. "What's wrong with me? Why are all these weird things happening to me?" Naruto asked in a little more than a squeak. "Foolish human, you would like to know, wouldn't you?" The Kyuubi said in the most frightening tone possible, with the killing intent rolling off of him in waves. "But I don't feel like helping my container, so you'll have to figure it out on your own. If it were me, I would have figured it out by now, but seeing as how you're such a moron, I'll give you a tip. If you had a bloodline, it wouldn't involve hand seals, but a chakra flow. Not that you will understand, you worthless piece of garbage. Now be gone." Naruto was lying down in the warm afternoon sun, soaking up the heat as he was lost in his thoughts. Why did he have to say it like that? Why couldn't he just out and tell me what to do, seeing as he's such a know-it-all? Naruto slowly opened his eyes and looked around. Wait, I'm on top of the mountain. I'm on top of the mountain. Naruto screamed mentally. Naruto jumped up and down on the edge of the cliff in pure joy. Thinking there was nobody around, he said enthusiastically, "I need to test this." But he wasn't alone. Jiraiya stepped out of the bush with a WTF look on his face. "I think you finally snapped," Jiraiya stated flatly. "No, it's, I can't tell you," Naruto said, disappointed. He really wished he could tell him, but he knew that he couldn't. I'm sorry, Jiraiya, I wish I could tell you, but I can't." "What are you gonna test? How to lie down?" Jiraiya said in a mocking tone. "All you did was walk over there," he pointed toward the edge of the cliff. "And you turned around and laid down on the grass." Naruto was in shock. He thinks I just came and laid down, that's so cool. This was his first major breakthrough on his supposed bloodline. XD. Over the past 2 weeks Naruto had been jumping of the cliff 8 times a day. To everyone else, it seemed like the same old routine, but to Naruto, every day was a new adventure with unlimited time. Every time he jumped off he would always end up onto the rock face. He had found out 2 things in the past 2 weeks. He didn't need the Kyuubi chakra, and there was no need for hand signs. When he thought he needed hand signs he would be sent back in time before he could do a summon. He had discovered this by him not thinking where he wanted to be, so he summoned Gamabunta instead of time skipping. After many attempts Naruto figured that no hand signs equals a more precise time travel. Then Naruto tried using his bloodline without the Kyuubi chakra. This resulted in an even better result in timing. It was within a few seconds, but with the Kyuubi chakra he would end up a minute to a day off, but it was horribly draining depending on how far back he wanted to go. XD. Naruto stood in the sewer within his subconscious. He had visited this place every day for the past 2 weeks to ask for chakra so he could continue training without passing out from chakra depletion. What do you want, brat? The Kyuubi asked in a frightening tone which had ceased to scare Naruto as he had visited many times and was beginning to enjoy torturing the fox. I want you to tell me everything you know about my bloodline, Naruto demanded. His answer was a resounding laughter which still kind of freaked out Naruto. And why would I share my wealth of information? The Kyuubi said in a questioning tone. Don't flatter yourself. If you tell me, it'll show the world that you are still something to fear by seeing how powerful your Jinchuriki is, Naruto said. And if you don't tell me I'll find some way to cause you pain. I haven't figured it out yet, but when I do you'll be in for a world of hurt. He had thought this over and over for the last week. Time travel won't help me beat Neji, so maybe the fart fox has a couple ideas. Hey brat, I can hear your thoughts, you know, right? Fart fox, that's a new one. Kyuubi thought back into his mind as he was weighing the consequences of telling the boy about his bloodline. He only knew a few things. He only knew one thing. But it was a very, very good technique. Okay brat, I'll tell you, but it's not because I like you, it's because I had to get stuck in such a weakling and it wouldn't be beneficial for me to die early. Naruto almost started jumping up and down but managed to keep his composure. So are you gonna tell me or what? Just as those words left his mouth he felt a tugging on his body, and he found himself somewhere else entirely. A white room which seemed to have no walls, no shadows, it just seemed to be. Before him he saw a mirror representation of himself doing a ram seal and focusing chakra all around his body. The image became unfocused and disappeared and his head was flooded with information on how to do it explained by the voice of Kyuubi. First you have to make a ram seal and focus the chakra all through your body. Then you think of time slowing down. You can move as fast as you like. You can run, walk, jog, whatever. To an onlooker it seems like you're moving at the speed of light when, to you, you're just walking. If you ran you could get to Suna and back before someone could blink. It eats a considerable amount of energy, but having your stamina you could maintain it for maybe an hour before passing out from chakra depletion. With that the explanation was over and he was sitting on the forest floor staring at the clouds once again. Okay, I have to try this, Naruto said to himself quietly. He noticed a leaf falling and decided to try this new aspect to his bloodline. Naruto quickly put his hands in a ram seal and focused chakra like he'd seen himself do, his sole thought to slow time. He closed his eyes in concentration and he felt it begin to work as the concentration was put on standby. He could feel the slightest drain but it was blown away by what he saw. The leaf he saw falling was standing still and the grass was unmoving. The trees that had been swaying in the calm wind had stopped. It was beautiful, nothing moving at all. It was so peaceful. Naruto walked up to the leaf and touched it gingerly and pulled into his hand. As he walked around, he noticed a glint of light nearby. As he approached it, he noticed it to be a certain red-clad ninja whom he decided to play a prank on to test his abilities, so he casually stepped beside him and crouched low exactly the same as him. Ready to scare the crap out of him, he released the chakra concentration and waited. Jiraiya was hiding in a bush watching Naruto train, wondering what he did on his free time. He watched stupefied as Naruto made a ram seal, then Jiraiya blinked and he was gone before he could start making assumptions about a genjutsu or something. Someone started talking to him. "Whatcha doin'?" Naruto said in a flat tone. Jiraiya literally jumped out of his clothes as he jumped into the air, as he settled back into his spot behind the bushes, giving Naruto a disapproving glare. "What kind of crazy jutsu is that?" Jiraiya asked, totally mind-boggled. "Oh, nothing, I might have told you if you weren't spying on me, but instead I'll give you a hint. It'll be the key to my victory over Neji." Naruto wanted to tell someone, but who? Not Jiraiya. Not Sarutobi just yet. He just couldn't bottle up all this excitement. He had to tell someone. Hinata. He could trust Hinata. She wouldn't tell a soul if he told her not to. "Now I need to practice my new jutsu," Naruto said as he made the ram seal and went through the process of doing his new bloodline. Time slowed once again and he walked away again just to the edge of the clearing to see Jiraiya's reaction, who he heard a few curses from, followed by some grumblings about blinking. XD 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 XD. The next day Naruto woke up as happy as he had been in a long time. When he finished taking a shower, he realized he didn't go back in time yesterday and he was exactly 1 week into his training in real time, but for him it had been for 1 month. He decided to put the time travel on hold for a while and let time progress on its own. Naruto quickly left for the training ground he had been using for the past weeks, but on his way there he decided to have a little fun with the fastest ninja in Konoha. XD 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 XD. Naruto stood not 3 meters away from the famous Might Guy. "I challenge you to a race, Guy, from one end of Konoha and back," Naruto exclaimed. "Oh, Naruto, your youthfulness is quite inspiring. I accept. You lucky, I just finished an intense battle with Kakashi," Guy said equally as loud, giving Naruto a nice guy pose. "Oh, and Guy, you might want to take off your weights," Naruto said, attempting to give Guy somewhat of an upper hand. "As tempting as that sounds, I cannot, so what are the rules of this race?" Guy questioned. "First we will have Kakashi take these 2 flags, Naruto said while pulling out 2 checkered flags, and take them to the other side of Konoha. "The rules are simple. You must take a flag from him, run back and stick it in the ground where you started." "Why do I have to be the one to do this?" Kakashi said, grabbing the 2 flags and running toward the other side of Konoha. "You realize challenging Guy to a foot race is useless. Fate tells me you will lose," Neji said in a matter-of-fact tone. "Wow, fate talks to you too. That's weird. It told me I'm gonna win," Naruto said with a shocked look on his face. Neji held his head high and walked away. "Shall we, Guy?" Naruto asked, ready to blow Neji's panties off. "Okay, let's go. Good luck, Naruto," Guy said, giving Naruto a smile which made the sun reflect into Naruto's eyes, momentarily blinding him. "Now on 3, 1, 2, 3 go." Naruto was momentarily pushed off his feet as Guy rushed by. Naruto watched as he disappeared out of sight and without the ram seal focused chakra throughout his body, and imagined time slowing. When he opened his eyes he could see the leaves standing still and Neji looking at him with his bloodline activated. "You're not the only one with a bloodline, Neji." Naruto casually walked over to Neji and pulled his pants down before running toward where Lee had bolted. As Naruto approached Guy he patted him on the back. He was moving very, very slowly, but just enough to see that he was moving. Naruto bounded past Lee and grabbed a flag from Guy. Naruto ran back and pushed his sign into the ground and laid down beside it before releasing the chakra. As Neji looked around, he noticed that Naruto had disappeared. He couldn't even feel a chakra signature. As his senses caught up with him, he felt a cool breeze in his lower regions, and looked around to see a blushing Tenten. When he looked down, he saw his pants around his ankles. Blushing himself, he quickly pulled his pants up, wondering who had done it. He hadn't even felt them go down, and nobody could have ever gotten close enough to do this, not even Lee. As Neji looked around, he saw a lazy-looking Naruto not 20 meters away, watching the clouds with a flag put firmly in the ground beside him. No, he must have cheated somehow. He couldn't have beaten Guy. He's the best, the fastest. So what's fate telling you now, huh? Naruto questioned in a flat tone as he watched the clouds. Neji's response was a few spits and sputers about how he'd cheated and that fate was never wrong. After another minute, Guy showed up looking totally winded. That was an incredible race, Naruto. It seems the fires of youth burn brighter in you than me, but however did you beat me? I did not even see you pass me. Guy said between deep breaths. Yes, I would have to ask the same question. I didn't even feel you take the flag. It was there one moment and the next it wasn't, Kakashi added coolly. Naruto must have gotten quite a trainer for himself. You'll have to see during the finals. Neji will understand firsthand what the depth of what I just did means, Naruto said before closing his eyes and slowing time. Naruto got up and walked over to Neji once more and pulled his pants down before walking away. Naruto woke up the next morning dazed. He had used a lot of chakra yesterday, he had played a lot with his bloodline, he had had the time of his life, and he planned to do the same today. He also intended to visit Hinata as he hadn't in the past few days or weeks in his time. Naruto walked around the village, think about his next prank. Hey, I know, I'll challenge Kiba to a rematch to see if this new power it'll help my fighting style. But first I'll go see if Jiraiya wants to watch me dominate for real this time. Naruto said, planning what he'll do, and how he'll approach him, pushing his fingers together manically picturing how he'll win. Hey Jiraiya, how's the peeping going? Naruto half said, half screamed into a low-crouched Jiraiya's ear. He was crouched with a notepad and a pencil, writing furiously, almost making smoke. He was peeping through the flimsy bamboo fence that separates the two bathhouses trough, a small and almost unnoticeable hole. After Naruto's arrival, an unusual statement that was loud enough for all the people on the other side of the fence to hear, needless to say all the women left. How did you know it'd be here? Jiraiya questioned. The blonde teen had an uncanny ability to be able to know where he always was, and it was a big village. Let's just say a little frog told me. Naruto said in a jokingly, not realizing how stupid he sounded. Jiraiya's sweat dropped. Ha! Ha, very funny. Jiraiya said in a sarcastic manner, turning back to his research, to see a deserted hot spring. Cursing mentally, Jiraiya turned back to his pupil. I wanted to let you know I'm going to challenge Kiba to a rematch. I was here to ask if you wanted to watch when I beat him again. Naruto said. What the heck? Sure, you already scared all the girls away anyways, but I haven't taught you squat other than summoning. What are you gonna do, fart in his face again? Jiraiya teased. Nah, I won't need that. What's to say that I haven't been training on my own? Naruto asked. Oh, he was gonna take it easy on Kiba. Then again, if he loses, he could always go back in time to before the fight and do it again and again and again. Okay, whatever, let's go before you make a scene. Jiraiya said, ushering Naruto out the door. Naruto quickly complied and ran ahead of Jiraiya. As they walked down the dirt road, Jiraiya received bows from people who, after bowing, spit in Naruto's direction. Naruto brushed these off like a daily occurrence, and Jiraiya couldn't help but ask himself if Naruto had really had such a bad childhood that the boy expected to be treated like trash. The nerve of these people, treating Naruto like he was the devil incarnate. Wait, no, even he would get more respect than Naruto. His response to the disrespect toward Naruto was a wave of killing intent which sent most villagers to their knees. Was his life really that bad? I was supposed to be his godfather. Was it really a good choice to leave him alone to grow up? Maybe if I would have been there he would have had a half-normal life. Jiraiya thought to himself, pitying the boy, and half-blaming himself for all the wrongs done to Naruto in his life thus far. Naruto and Jiraiya saw the Inuzuka compound becoming visible over the horizon. They soon arrived at Kiba's clan compound where he asked the front gate guard to go get Kiba for him. The guard complied and returned with Kiba, who looked surprised to see Naruto. "Hey Naruto, I was just gonna go out and challenge you to a rematch," Kiba said confidently as he approached the blonde ninja. "Sure you were. Anyway, that is precisely why I'm here, to challenge you to a rematch. You up for it?" Naruto questioned in a formal manner. "Hell yeah. You won last time on a fluke, now I'll show you how strong I really am, right Akamaru?" Akamaru barked in agreement. "Shall we go to a favorite training spot of mine?" Naruto asked while giving Kiba a coaxing hand motion while disappearing into the blinding afternoon sun. Naruto and Kiba stood parallel, both ready to grab some kuni from their pouch if necessary, like two cowboys in an old western movie. "Aren't you gonna make some cage buncheons or something?" Kiba asked. When he wanted a fight, he expected to have Naruto rush him, but he seemed more prepared. "Nah, I won't even need those to beat you, I'll just need one jutsu," Naruto said confidently, pointing at Kiba. "Oh, this is gonna be so good and fun. Actually, I'm gonna see if my shadow clones can slow time too, but later." "Ya right, you barely beat me with them last time, you couldn't have learned such a powerful jutsu in just a week," Kiba retorted. He and Akamaru had a few new clan techniques up their sleeves. "He'll never beat me again. We'll see. Sands of time, sand slow," Naruto yelled, while the world around him became still. "Oh yeah. I came up with a kick name. I don't think I'll beat him right away, I'll just play with him a bit." Before Kiba, Naruto became a flash of yellow and orange. Not a second later, Kiba found himself hanging by his ankle on a tree. Naruto became visible not 50 feet away with a smug look on his face. "I thought you said you were gonna win, genius," Naruto said in a mooching tone. "You just got lucky," Kiba screamed back. An on-looking Jiraiya was in the process of picking his jaw off the ground. "Yes. I didn't blink this time, but why was that the Hiraishin? When did he learn that? It couldn't be, but what if? What if?" A foaming at the mouth Jiraiya thought to himself, "He will truly be the best student ever." Jiraiya sat back on his heels and thanked Kami for giving him the second generation of the Namakazes. He rested up against a tree behind him and decided to enjoy the show, wishing he had some popcorn. Kiba quickly cut himself down and fed Akamaru a food pill. "Now it's on." Kiba yelled as Akamaru got on top of him in the form of Kiba, but more animalistic, both with elongated fingernails and canines looking somewhat more scary. Kiba and Akamaru started to spin, both aimed for Naruto. "Okay, have it your way. If you don't want to give up, fine by me. Sands of time, sand slow," Naruto said, time slowing to an almost stop before his eyes. "This still kinda creeps me out, but it's so cool." Naruto leisurely walked over to Kiba, who was in mid-spin. He was moving ever so slightly. Naruto redirected Kiba to aim toward Akamaru and vice versa. He then calmly walked away, stopping where he had originally started. When Naruto released the time slow, he watched with satisfaction as Kiba and Akamaru collided. Akamaru turned back to his dog form after passing out from the collision. "Akamaru!" Kiba screamed, running to his partner's aid. Kiba easily awakened Akamaru. He noticed that he was limping. He had a slight concussion himself. Both had various cuts and scrapes. Jiraiya basically had a river of drool coming out of his mouth. "No, it's not the Hiraishin, it's better. Oh, the possibilities." The Hiraishin was a teleportation and was able to kill quick, but Naruto is able to intercept and change the attack completely without anyone seeing more than a glint of yellow. "I have to know what this is." Jiraiya was giggling like a school girl at the possibilities of this jutsu, which Naruto called the Sands of Time thing. "K man, I give, you're just too good, but I will beat you someday. It's not that I'm being a coward, It's not like me, but that's all I had, and now I have to bring Akamaru by my sis to get him looked at. But what was that you were doing? It was like a flash of yellow and orange, then before I could blink I was tied to a tree. I didn't even feel you touch me. Wait, are you some taijutsu master like Lee? I wanna know how the hell did you aim me and Akamaru at each other? As far as I know, nobody has ever touched the vortex and lived to see their arm another day. Kiba was totally confused. The last time he had heard of someone moving that fast was the fourth, but he didn't even think he was this fast. It was as if he had stopped time and moved within that state. Naruto was listening to the bombardment of questions. In Kiba's weird way, he was praising him in between the cursing. Oh, he loved praise. He couldn't wait to see the smug look on the arrogant Hyuga's face disappear and reappear on Naruto's when he won. Oh, the sweet satisfaction it would bring. Jiraiya tripped while getting up from his resting spot and rolled over to Naruto with a twinkle in his eye. He laid face up at his student's feet, looking at his protege with a newfound respect. What was that? Jiraiya asked simply in a dreamy tone. Oh, just something I've been working on for a while. I just recently figured out this aspect of it. Naruto said, trying to contain his laughter as he stared down to his sensei. Oh, he was gonna love to show this off. He was gonna make those old farts we call council members piss themselves. Naruto had decided it was time to show Sarutobi and Hinata. Sarutobi because he needed help on the history of his bloodline, and he figured that the professor might know a few things. And Hinata, well, because it's Hinata. After Jiraiya picked himself up, he walked away with a far-off look on his face. Kiba sulked off carrying his dog and mumbling about more training, which left Naruto to head toward the Hokage office. Naruto decided to run there, but not in the old-fashioned way, the time travel way. Naruto bolted through the village heading to the Hokage's office at the speed of light. Naruto approached the Chunin guarding the doors and simply pushed them open. He walked down the hallways lit with warm afternoon sun, gazing at the people frozen in time. He did simple pranks like facing people who were running down the hall with armloads of paper at the wall, causing them to smash into it later on, and piling a tall mound of people in the middle of the room, and other fun stuff like that. Naruto soon entered the Hokage's office and sat down behind the old man, who looked as if he was just pacing about his room. Naruto promptly sat down and took on a bored expression, releasing sand slow. Time caught up with the village, who of which some thought they saw a glint of yellow cross their vision, but quickly marked it as their eyes playing tricks on them. Several crashes were heard about this building, however. Naruto smiled on the inside with grim satisfaction. The Hokage saw a small sliver of yellow and orange cross his vision, but instead of marking it off, he looked around to see a bored-looking Naruto. Sarutobi's pipe almost fell out of his mouth. When did the kid get so fast? That was even faster than the fourth's Hiraishin. At least then I could make out a small idea of where he was, but this is interesting. Hello Naruto, what brings you here? The Hokage said, not showing his surprise. At that speed he could easily take out anyone in the world. Nobody would be able to react in time to do anything. My bloodline, Naruto said in a flat tone. He had expected praise from the old man, but he was full of surprises, I guess. You're what? Sarutobi said in obvious disbelief. Naruto sure knew not to ever let things get dull with his job. My bloodline, Naruto repeated. Okay, so what is this supposed bloodline? The third asked. I can't exactly show you one part, but I can show you the one I know you're trying to still figure out. Naruto said in a monotone voice. Ah yes, what proof can you give me you have this bloodline? Sarutobi questioned. How about if I can take that cap of yours off, you give me a fair chance at evaluating my bloodline. Oh, an old man, Naruto said. Oh, this is gonna be too easy. Yes, Naruto, Sarutobi answered. Don't hold back. With that, Naruto waited for the old man to get ready. Oh, don't worry, you won't touch the hat, nobody has ever come close. Sarutobi said, getting into his fighting stance. We'll see. Naruto muttered the time slow under his breath, watching almost instantly as time slowed. Naruto casually walked up to Sarutobi, grabbed his hat with little difficulty, put it on and sat back down. That was very anticlimactic. Naruto thought sarcastically as he let time slow go. Before Sarutobi could react, he saw as a yellow glint came once again then disappeared. He felt a breeze paw over his head. Sarutobi looked around the room to find a blond boy pretending to be asleep with the Hokage's hat on his head. Sarutobi sat there dumbfounded, his mind working a mile a minute trying to figure this out. He decided to give the boy a chance. Naruto, it seems you have given yourself a chance for a proper evaluation, seeing as how you took my hat. Sarutobi said. Really? Naruto instantly perked up, instantly breaking him from his stoic behavior. Naruto and Sarutobi sat in two different chairs facing each other. The two had tea in their hands. So tell me, Naruto, can you do anything other than slow time? Sarutobi asked the blond boy sitting across from him. They had been talking for a while now about Naruto's ability. He had told him all about the time slow. By now Sarutobi was thinking about how he would get to show off his new clan to the other villages, and also the bad news is how it will sit over with the council. He already knew Danzo would say to put him en route. He said that about everyone who had the least bit of talent, but what worried him was the others, how he knew they would try to deny Naruto anything they had control over. I can go back in time, Naruto said, satisfied when the third's pipe fell out. Really? Sarutobi said, trying to compose his properness. The 5 cages had had a meeting about this a long time ago, about if they had anyone who could control time in any way, was to arrange a meeting for all the cages to discuss what to do with this individual, and now he could see why. It was such an amazing power. Naruto could make the best assassin ever, he could be the best ninja ever. Everyone had laughed at the prospect of anyone to be able to do something like that. Even he had not believed it, until now. Well, that would be impossible to test, I think, but if you say so, the third said slowly. Well, I don't know anything else other than these 2 techniques. I was wondering if you knew anything more about it than me. Naruto asked in a bored but interested tone. I'm sorry, Naruto, but you seem to know more than I, but if you'd like, I could get you registered as a clan head. Sarutobi said, wondering about the magnitude of the uproar about Naruto having anything special about him. Nah, not now, but after the finals, I want to flaunt my power a bit to humble those council members. Naruto responded. Sarutobi relaxed slightly. If he plays his cards right, he would make the council so much easier to talk to about his clan head instatement. Sarutobi thought while lighting his pipe again. The third was not someone to flaunt his cards, but something about this power made it almost unbearable not to. His bloodline was able to beat any and all bloodlines out of the water. Grr, life can be such a bugger sometimes. While Sarutobi was lighting his pipe, Naruto was heading toward the door. Giving a quick wave, he slowed time mid-step out the door, acting as if he never concentrated at all. He sped out the solid wood front doors of the Hokage's tower. After leaving the Hokage's tower, he went straight to the hospital to visit a certain someone. Naruto released the time slow to ask to see Hinata instead of barging in. After receiving permission from the secretary, he went straight to Hinata's room. Naruto opened the door to see Hinata reading. Good book? Naruto questioned. Why, yes it is. Surprised to see you, Naruto. Hinata stuttered out, quickly putting her book away. So how's it been going since I last visited? It feels like forever, Naruto said, trying to make small talk. He had a queasy feeling in his gut, hoping he wouldn't slip up and say something stupid. Gee, good, I guess, Hinata answered. Good. Hey, you're coming to see my match with Neji, right? Naruto asked, trying to get this conversation going, the queasy feeling getting worse. He was thinking of how to get rid of it, as it was quite unsettling. Many things crossed his mind, stabbing himself in the stomach, no and ow. Going to the bathroom, maybe. Kissing Hinata. Wah, okay, where did that come from? Well, it's the least painful, I guess. I might as well, but only on the cheek. Oh, of course. Hinata stated quietly, bringing Naruto out of his stupor at the right time for her. She didn't know it, but she had awakened him at precisely the right time. Awesome. Well, I best be going. Good night, Hinata. Naruto said, licking him lips nervously. Before he turned to leave, he bent in to give her a peck good night. at which point Hinata turned to bid him goodnight as well. As much to Naruto's surprise and to Hinata's delight, their lips met, Naruto savoring the contact, his thoughts lost in the soft touch of Hinata's lips. After what felt like forever they parted, neither knew why the other didn't simply jump away immediately, neither seemed to care. Naruto promptly gave Hinata a wry smile, but before he could start stuttering out apologies, Hinata was already passed out, away in her dream world where her and Naruto were together. Naruto quickly left out the window, looking at Hinata with a smile on her face, with the setting sunlight reflecting off her flawless skin. He had really enjoyed today, especially the last part. He had just come to the realization that the queasy feeling was long gone, replaced by sheer joy. Naruto sat in his bed thinking over the events of the past few days. So much had changed, for good and for bad. He had a lot to think over, a lot to consider. Yes, his new power was awesome, but there had to be a catch, there just had to. The Kyuubi had said that he could only use the time slow for 60 minutes, but in whose time? His, or real time? He wasn't eager to find out either. And what his feelings for Hinata? It was too late to try and answer these questions. Now was time for sleep, eager to see what tomorrow will hold. Okay. The first fight, Neji Hyuga vs. Naruto Uzumaki. Genma exclaimed at the top of his lungs, getting the attention of everyone, despite most being here to see the fight between Sasuke and Gaara. XD 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 XD. There were bets galore going on in the stands. Everyone except a select few voted for Neji, knowing he was going to win anyways. To most it was a one-sided battle. How could the village pariah beat the Hyuga genius? Jiraiya and Iruka were betting heavily for Naruto, getting odd looks from the other gamblers who were questioning if Jiraiya and Iruka knew something they didn't, but they shrugged it off, seeing it as their gain. Meanwhile, down on the arena floor, this was the moment Naruto had been waiting for. He had trained for 2 months and had picked up a lot from the old perv. He didn't intend to just slow time and punch Neji and win. He intended to make him realize his worthlessness. He had a complete battle plan laid out, and it all started with Neji talking about fate. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts by Genma saying loudly, "Start." As soon as it had begun, Neji commenced talking, as Naruto thought he would. "You should forfeit. Fate tells me you will lose like Lady Hinata did." Neji said, boring holes in Naruto with his eyes. He expected to see fear, to see anger boil within him, but what he saw confused him. Naruto's laughter bellowed through the stadium for a few moments before coming too soft for people to hear. Many thought he had lost his mind, or simply was trying to hide his fear. They would be wrong. Naruto's expression went from playful to murderous, killing intent rolling off of him in waves. With all the hate, all the coldness he could muster, he pointed at Neji and said, "Tell me, Neji, how do you know the fate of people?" Naruto questioned in a bitter tone. "Well, you're the dead last. You have no chance of beating a genius like myself. Lady Hinata shared your fate and look how she ended up." Neji stated clearly, arrogance rolling off of him. Again he expected to see Naruto get angry, but he just stared blankly, before disappearing. Naruto subconsciously slowed time to a max. He slowly walked up to Neji, pulled down his pants just to embarrass him a little. Then he took out a kuni and put to Neji's throat and releasing his grip on time. There was complete silence throughout the crowd. For the first time today someone could have heard a Senbon drop. Naruto had seemed to be able to just materialize behind Neji, whom of which had his pants around his ankles. Neji was surprised to see Naruto just disappear. He started to look around aimlessly, trying to find Naruto, questioning the method he had used to disappear. First he thought genjutsu, but wrote that off as Naruto wasn't smart enough or well trained enough to use those. Before he could continue his train of thought, he heard a whisper in his ear. "Don't underestimate your enemy and let them get behind you, or they will kill you," Naruto said softly in Neji's ear, a little bit of malice hidden behind the words. Up in the stands, the people were in an uproar, trying to change their bets, except a select few who sat down with smug looks on their faces. "Hey guys, How did Naruto move so fast? Sakura asked the group in front of her, hoping to get an answer. Is this really Naruto? She asked herself. I don't know, was the general answer among them. Too much in shock to say anything else. The Kazekage Orochimaru was cooking up a plan in the back of his mind, still determining the worthfulness of this Naruto brat. He had fought him in the Forest of Death, he couldn't move so fast then. Back on the arena floor, Naruto slowed time again as Neji was turning around. At normal speed he was moving quite fast, but to Naruto Neji was moving slower than he could see. Smirking, Naruto walked back to the place where he had started, and released his grip on time. Ready to fight, or do you want to give me another lecture? Naruto asked coolly. At that instant Neji charged, but tripped when he realized his pants were around his ankles, with his hard underwear there for all to see. Many cackles were heard about the crowd. That didn't help Neji's mood. You are within my range, 64 palms trigram. Neji screamed. After pulling up his pants, he let his rage get the better of him. Not thinking about the significance of Naruto being able to pull down his pants without even him knowing. Naruto slowed time slightly, something he had learned to do in the past weeks, using different amounts of chakra to control how slow time became. An example of this is if he pushed a lot of chakra into it, he would basically stop time, and if he pumped just a little, he would slow time a little. Naruto watched as Neji's chakra-saturated hands neared at a slow pace. Naruto raised his hand and focused chakra into his index and ring finger and lightly pushed his hand away, doing the same with the other hand coming at him. Naruto heard Neji say slowly, 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms. Naruto's and Neji's hand were blurs, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. After a painfully long wait, it was over. Naruto had avoided each and every hit, much to everyone's surprise, mostly Hiashi. He was for the first time in his life, speechless, not being able to come up with words to describe his amazement. Nobody has ever avoided all 64 palms. No one. Maybe I have thought wrong of Naruto. Neji thought as Naruto, still standing clammily where he had started, was smirking. Neji, I'm giving you one chance to forfeit. Naruto said. Never. I will not lose to someone as low as you. My pride will not allow it. Neji said, getting into his fighting stance. Okay, your loss. I was going to play with you a little, but I think I'll finish this quick. Don't worry, I'll still make sure it'll still hurt a lot. Naruto said. Before Neji could say anything more, Naruto held his hand up, looking toward Neji with nothing but hate in his eyes. Wind spear. Naruto screamed for dramatic purposes. As he created a spear made out of wind, his hand gripping it as if it were real. Naruto threw it as hard as he could. It barreled toward Neji at incredible speeds. The only thing Neji could think to do was the Kaden, his ultimate defense. He started spinning wildly, creating a blue shield around him. Many people in the audience watched in awe, not only at Neji's technique but how just before Naruto's wind spear hit Neji, it exploded into a wave of wind knives. Any who hit Neji's Kaden exploded on contact, but the ones that missed created small craters and deep gashes in the wall behind Neji. Inside, Neji was happy he had learned Kaden, or he would have just been a smear on the wall. Flashback no jutsu. Jiraiya was surprised to say the least. He had just a week ago shown his student the wind spear. It was a wind affinity jutsu that allowed you to throw a spear made of chakra. It was effective if it hit home. As he had shown Naruto, it could easily cut right through a tree, but it rarely did hit right on, as it was easy to avoid. That was why it was only a C-class jutsu. But in a week's time he had gotten rid of the variable of avoiding it by making it explode into hundreds of wind knives that either exploded or did serious cutting damage. He could tell this by the damage dealt on the training ground, but how did he do it? They had worked on Naruto's wind affinity for another week before Jiraiya had shown Naruto wind spear. Jiraiya had expected this to just be something for Naruto to work on in his free time, but Naruto was full of surprises. In a week Naruto could split a waterfall with wind chakra all by himself. He had mastered his affinity to a degree as if he had been working on it for a month at least, so Jiraiya figured he would show Naruto a few useful techniques. Naruto was drained laying in the middle of the field, bloody and cut repeatedly. He had created a new jutsu in 1.5 months. He had not only expanded on the wind spear, he had created another jutsu, one just as powerful as the wind spear. He had had to go back in time countless times to get this finished, but it was over. He had completed his goal. Flashback: no jutsu over. Naruto released his hold on time and watched as Neji's spin came to an end. Naruto was surprised that he had used something like that. He had expected to win with just that. Jiraiya even couldn't avoid it without using his special spine hair thing jutsu. I guess I'm gonna have to use that jutsu, Naruto thought, as he started walking toward Neji, stopping time and walking behind him, then letting it go. Then he proceeded to repeatedly throwing wind knives at him, trying to get him distracted so he could use that jutsu. Neji wasn't having fun at all. Naruto kept on disappearing and reappearing somewhere else, throwing wind knives at him. For the 10th time Naruto appeared, this time with a smirk on his face. He cocked his arm back. All Neji could see was a shimmer of an outline of a giant mallet, at least 20 times bigger than Naruto, for a split second before having to go defensive. Neji started to spin again. At the same time Naruto swung his arm, colliding with Neji's Kaden. The two jutsus fought for dominance over on another. After a few minuets Neji couldn't hold his Kaden any longer. He was drained. Finally Neji started to slow down and Naruto's mallet slammed into him, causing him to fly toward the wall at amazing speeds. When Neji hit the wall there was a sickening snap heard. He slumped over nearly unconscious, a huge crack in the cement wall where he had hit. Neji had several broken bones. How had Naruto beaten him? He was the dead last. He had beaten the genius, but how? Fate had told him Naruto was to lose. There was complete silence in the stadium for the second time today, except for a few whispers. Jiraiya beamed at his student, as well as Iruka. Many of Naruto's friends were slack-jawed at what happened during that month. Was the basic question amongst the crowd. All that was heard was a shuffling of feet as Naruto walked toward Neji. The barely conscious form of Neji saw Naruto walking toward him, the waves of heat distorting his figure. See Neji, fate does not control us, it doesn't run the world, you can run your own life unless you let fate control it. You might have thought fate made your father die, that it was his fate to die. It just happened. Stuff happens because it does, not because it has to. Ha, I might be the dead last, but I'm still gonna be the Hokage someday. Naruto said, putting his hands behind his head, a weak smile crossing his face. The last thought to cross Neji's mind before allowing darkness to consume him was, "Thank you, Naruto." After Neji had been taken away, the crowd broke into cheers. Naruto smiled and waved, putting on a toothy grin, and waved to some people in the crowd he knew. After he had finished taking in the praise, Genma announced Naruto the winner. Naruto didn't know but Orochimaru had taken a bad interest in him. Also, most of the council members were coming up with excuses as to why Naruto was able to beat Neji, very bad excuses at that. The next fights were very boring compared to Naruto's and Neji's fight. Naruto hadn't taken interest in watching, instead he decided to take a trip to his subconscious, yay. Naruto was once again in the sewers of his mind, standing in front of the two golden gates that held back the most dangerous being in the ninja world. What's the catch? Naruto asked bravely. What do you mean, brat? Kyuubi answered in a hostile tone. There always has to be a catch. There's no way I can slow time with no consequences, it can't be that simple. Naruto continued, ignoring the Kyuubi's hostile tone. Ah, you're smarter than I thought, I'll give you that. What's the catch, you ask? Well, that's simple. What do you think you do when you slow time? Kyuubi asked. Well, I slow time, and make it easier for me to move around. Naruto answered back. Why would the Kyuubi ask that? Do people age when you stop or slow time? The demon continued. No. Naruto said slowly. Correct. Do you age when time slows? Kyuubi pressed on. If he has a brain he'll figure it out in a minute. No. If no one else ages then I don't either. Naruto said confidently, shifting from foot to foot. Can everyone else slow time as well? Kyuubi said, getting annoyed. No. Well then, do you still age? I don't know, why is it always riddles with you? Naruto said, getting annoyed as well. Let me put this simply enough for you small brain to comprehend. You still age. If you use your bloodline too much, you end up being much older than your comrades. Now be gone, Kyuubi said in a booming voice. Wait, no, I have more questions. Naruto screamed while being pushed out of his subconscious. Naruto seemed to stir in his sleep, slowly wakening. His eyes fluttered open to see everyone around him pressed up against the railings, almost falling off. The position of the sun had changed. It looked like it was late afternoon by now. Slowly getting up, his legs creaked and groaned as he stretched like a cat. Stumbling over to the railing, he saw his teammate, Sasuke, with his arm plunged deep into a dome of sand. Numerous spikes shot out, almost making Sasuke Swiss cheese. An ear-splitting screech was heard, instantly waking Naruto from his drowsy state. Wiping tears from his eyes, Naruto watched as a huge demonic arm shot out toward Sasuke, almost crushing him. He leapt away instantly, narrowly avoiding another swing of the arm. Before another attack could be sent toward Sasuke, Naruto and all the other ninja present felt a genjutsu being cast on the area. A chorus of "Kai" was heard throughout the stadium. As if someone had pulled a trigger, all hell broke loose. There were kuni flying, jutsu being cast, sending dragons and tidal waves everywhere. It was easy to see Konoha had been betrayed by sand and sound. In a panic, Naruto slowed time and made 200 shadow clones and gave them the command to kill any sand and sound ninjas. They had 10 minutes to do so as he didn't want to lose too much chakra. He personally approached Gaara and his team, and built a protection wall around them that he had been shown to him by Jiraiya. As he didn't want to kill anyone he knew, he left a note with them explaining the situation. And besides, he knew that Gaara was a fellow Jinchuriki, and did not wish to get close enough to him to see what effects his bloodline had on him. Flashback no jutsu. Naruto was almost out of chakra. He had 5 minutes to take down 3 targets, all in different parts of Konoha, that Jiraiya had set up as a test for him to see the extent of his resourcefulness. He couldn't do it in 5 minutes, maybe he could try doing 2 shadow clones, and sending each to different parts of town, just maybe it could work. Naruto made the hand seal for shadow clones. Before he could second guess himself, 2 puffs of smoke appeared. When the smoke cleared, 2 Naruto stood before the original. Naruto pumped his fist in victory before speeding toward his target. So I can do jutsu while time is slowed. Flashback no jutsu over. All the clones sped off in different directions, killing with little effort. The real Naruto took off to see if the old man was in trouble. When he arrived at the frozen form of the 3rd Hokage, he realized trouble was an understatement. The old man had, as if of some miracle, gotten himself stuck on the roof parallel to the cage box of the arena. The cage was across from the old man, but something told Naruto that wasn't the cage. In the end, it didn't matter who it was, he had to save the old man, and that was that. On the roof there were 4 people, all sporting sound headbands in each corner or the building. It looked like they were doing some kind of jutsu. A purple field was extending from both sides of each member. After a minute of thinking, he determined it was a barrier made to keep the 2 men in and the rest out, as to not aid the Hokage. Naruto calmly walked to the first of the 4. It was a big guy. Knowing what he had to do, he pulled out a kuni and said a small prayer before slicing the man's throat. Noticing that no blood came out, a thin line appeared on his skin, but that's all. Naruto walked to the next guy, who had 6 arms and was in the middle of doing hand signs with each pair. Naruto once again said a small prayer before lodging his kuni into the back of his neck, killing him instantly. Naruto then walked over to the guy with 2 heads. Why does this guy have so many freaks as his bodyguards? Naruto asked himself as he walked up to the deformed man. He then proceeded to slit his throat like the first man after saying a prayer like before. Naruto then went to that last of the 4, a girl, not deformed in any way, but an accomplice to trying to kill Sarutobi nonetheless. Naruto said a much longer prayer for her than the rest, then killed her by slitting her throat and stabbing her at the base of the skull, making sure for it to be as painless as possible. A feeling of regret still there, Naruto walked over and stood beside the old man destroying all his clones. He saw that they had stopped the invasion coming at the north walls and had found in a clearing in the forest that had many people in the middle of summoning two what looked like snakes. His clones had quickly and skillfully killed all the summoners and all the attackers within the walls of Konoha, and 3/4 of the invading force outside the walls. Well, at least my village is safe, Naruto thought as he was forced to release his time slow because if he held it any longer he would likely pass out from chakra exhaustion. Finding no need to slow time any longer, he let time return to normal. As soon as that happened, for the second time today, all hell broke loose. Much to Naruto's guilt, geysers of blood erupted from the Sound Four's throats and other parts of their bodies, each falling in a lifeless heap on the rooftop. The barrier dissipated instantly. All his clones poofing away as well, returning all their memories, further adding to his guilt. To say the least, all watching were shocked. How had this boy of 12 to 13 defeated the most feared ex-Konoha ninja's personal bodyguards? Yeah, he looked as tired as hell, but he had done it. He had completely ruined Orochimaru's plans. He had done more than anybody could have imagined. He had single-handedly stopped an invasion, which could have been the demise of the mighty village hidden in the leaves. Naruto was ready to drop. Even with his major reserves he was completely drained. He was having trouble even standing. He hadn't known the clones, while using his bloodline would drain so much chakra. He was in a very bad position. If someone were to attack him, he was powerless, vulnerable. He would leave the rest to Old Man Hokage. The old man caught on faster than everybody else. He knew what Naruto had done. He also knew that the boy didn't have any chakra left. He gave Naruto an appreciative nod and a warm smile. Now back to the battle. I still have my old student to take care of. I can get him while he's distracted. But before the old man could make a move, Orochimaru lashed out at Naruto in a blind rage, pulling his sword out of his mouth and instantly impaled it through the boy's stomach. It emerged beside Naruto's spine. It was a clean-cut trough. That's what you get for interrupting my plans, and to think I was going to recruit you, Orochimaru whispered. Those words meant nothing to Naruto. A sad smile crept up on his face. At least I'll die protecting the people I hold precious. Naruto thought as his vision started to fade. He felt the numbing sensation of the poison spreading through his body. In a last-pit effort, Naruto pulled all the remaining chakra he had and tried to activate his bloodline. The poison was too far along, he was too weak. He took one last look at the people around him and let the darkness take hold.